남들처럼 평범하게 살 수 있었다면 얼마나 좋았을까. 왜 나는 이렇게 된 거지? 초능력. 내가 갖고 싶어서 갖게 된 게 아닌데. 그런데 그 초능력 때문에 유령 요원이 된 것. 거기에서부터 내 인생은 내 뜻대로 움직이지 않았어.
인간이 총공격을 시작했습니다.
이미 변두리의 행성까지 황폐화시키고 있습니다. 막대한 피해가 발생하고
수십억 명에 달하는 사상자가
수많은 사람들을 죽였지. 그래, 나는 벌 받은 거야. 하지만 이렇게 될 줄 그때는 정말 몰랐어. 앵거스 맨스크를 죽인 것도 동맹의 뜻이었지 내 의지가 아니었으니까. 그런데 왜 다들 나에게만 손가락질을 한 거지? 기억도 나지 않는 그 시절의 내 모습. 누구보다 괴로운 건 난데 아무도 나를 위로해주지 않아. 뉴 게티스버그 현장에 투입되던 그때 왜 나는 지미의 말을 듣지
This is
않았을까?
Kerrigan. We've neutralized the Protoss, but there's a wave of Zerg advancing on this position.
인간으로 살 수 있었어. 지미와 함께 떠날 수도 있었어. 하지만 맹스크와의 교신이 끊어졌을 때 나는 어렴풋이 예감했지.
Boys, how about that evac?
적은 우리가 들끓는 타소니스 행성에서 나는 외롭게 죽어갈 것이라는 것을. 지미, 나를 살려줘. 나를 구해줘. 지미가 조금만 빨랐다면, 지미가 조금만 빨리 나를 찾아냈다면 나는 칼날 여왕이 아닌 캐리건으로 살아갈 수 있었겠지. 하지만 자행성에서 레이너와 재회했을 때 나는 이미 지미를 공격할 수밖에 없는 칼날 여왕이 돼 있었어. 생각하고 싶지 않은 길고 긴 종족 전쟁의 나날. 이제 겨우 끝인가 했더니 이번에는 젤라가 유물을 두고 그렇게나 싸워댔지. 하긴 그 덕분에 내가 인간의 모습으로 돌아올 수 있었던 것에는 감사하고 있어. 고마워, 지미. 하지만 나는 요즘에도 계속 악몽을 꿔와. 맹렬한 전투와 배신을 일삼았던 칼날 여왕의 모습. 오랜 기다림 끝에 일생에서 복수는 내 것이군. 내가 바로 칼날 여왕이다.
Time for the second day of the preliminaries for the GSTL. I am Wolf, with me is Calder. We got a different match today.
Exactly. We have FXO up against the Prime team. It's going to be a really treat today. This is going to be a battle of champions.
It is going to be a battle of champions, and we will have a Zerg player for certain to start things off. A lot of people have been saying it's been a little bit tough for Zergs at the highest level right now, but a Zerg coming out here, Lucky probably has some strats in mind.
Lucky, I can tell you that much, was not happy to face Marine King. When he saw that he was facing a Terran player, he was a little bit sad because, as you already said, Zerg are struggling a little bit against Terran these days in Heart of the Swarm. There are a lot of builds where Terran is really executing a lot of pressure. We have the Hellbats that do quite a lot of damage to most of the Zerg's units. And at the same time, Reapers getting really popular, especially in the early game. A lot of very aggressive Reaper builds against Zerg players, and they don't really have it easy against them.
Yeah, they really don't. I mean, Reapers now can be microed, so as long as they're not in combat, they heal, they get their health back. And, you know, in combat is loosely defined. It's basically if you're taking damage, it's the same as a probe's shields, for example. If you're taking damage, you're not going to get your health back, but you can still shoot at the same time as you get your health back. So you run away for a moment, your opponent's units don't target you anymore, then you start healing, you can come back into the fight. It gets really, really scary.
So not really an easy choice or an easy match for Lucky today, but we'll find out if he can take down Marine King, a strong opponent here. And Lucky, he was not successful in the last Code 8 qualifier. He was losing in the final once again. That seems to be his fate. So he could concentrate on Heart of the Swarm already because he knew from the beginning that Wings of Liberty wouldn't play a role for him.
Exactly. This is the exchange period for everybody here now in Korea. Switching over 100% to Heart of the Swarm. Really, worldwide, most people switching over 100% now. But this is going to be an exciting match, I feel, because we're going to see so many players that we have been watching closely in Wings of Liberty now be able to show their stuff, like Marine King, like Lucky, like Leenock.
Exactly. Marine King, of course, also really, really strong these days in Heart of the Swarm. Here we have the games from yesterday. You can really see that StarTale versus Zubu was a bit of a thriller.
Yep. I hope that GSTL logo at the bottom right gets fixed one day. I don't know what happened to it. It must have gotten smashed. Somebody broke that. There is Leenock, the man himself. A lot of people expecting him to come out at some point today, even though he is a top-level Zerg player. The balance is a bit of an issue for some Zerg players right now, but I think Leenock can do it. Have you seen this unit? Please call 155 GSL 2013.
Well, let's just hope that it stays lost.
Well, I'm looking for it. I actually hired that guy to make some signs for me. I'm trying to find the Warhound. I can't find it.
I believe you. Well, game award number 2 is up today. We have FXO as mentioned, and here they have the entire roster.
Yep. Here's the roster for FXO. Favorites like Tier, Leenock, Lucky, Choya, of course, the coach also listed on the roster. You've got people like The Best, and don't forget about Grubby.
Yep. He is listed in the lineup as well. He is a potential player for the team, not in Korea just yet. Choya already looking here over the screen. I love that we have now kind of team areas at the studio.
Exactly. This is just kind of like their little back private room to talk and prepare for the matches. FXOpen, a really strong team. They are currently the most successful GSTL team we've ever seen. We'll see how they can do in Heart of the Swarm.
Yeah, even though Gumiho said that he was a little bit surprised that they were able to take 2 championships. But one championship goes, of course, or one of the last one goes to the Prime team. They were able to win in Las Vegas. And here we have their roster with Classic, with Lucy, with Bjarne, with Terror, and even 2 Zerg players that we haven't seen too much of yet. They had to find a few Zergs after Boom Boom left.
Absolutely. Marine King making a really weird face there, not quite sure about that. You can see Amir, the new Zerg player. We've actually been seeing him around a little bit at the studio. I wasn't really sure who he was. He was just kind of a mystery. I had no idea who he was, but now I know.
Yeah.
So kind of a new challenger, probably just playing Heart of the Swarm only since we haven't seen this guy in Wings of Liberty, so I wonder what he's got planned.
For them, as I mentioned, it is really important to add a few Zergs to the lineup. They basically only had Boom Boom, a very, very strong Zerg player who is now still doing quite well in Code S, or did. Until he faced his opponents in the last round. He was not able to succeed to the round of 8, but still making quite an appearance in Code S this season. So for the Prime team, they now have a really nice roster with a lot of Zergs, Protoss, and Terrans, a nice ratio there. But the new Zerg players will still have to prove themselves.
Look at this title here. Will they discover new players outside of Leenock and Gumiho? That is a question many fans are wondering as well. You know, can FXOpen hold it together without their 2 heavy hitters? Because in the past, you and I and others on the internet have joked that Leenock basically is the team. He is the reason why in this format FXOpen has had so much success.
FXO just always has a nice strategy up their sleeves. They always try to just make a path for their strong players to come in and then take the series, Leenock being the last man standing. But they are up against a very, very strong team with Creator here, one of the top Protoss players in Korea.
Yeah. I can't wait to see what he's got planned for Heart of the Swarm.
Yeah.
I'm sure he hasn't been able to play as much as some of his other teammates since he's been playing Wings of Liberty, but
Creator is a really creative guy, you know, and there are so many builds that you can now do in the Heart of the Swarm and where you can experiment a little bit, and this is exactly what we can expect from a player like Creator. Come up with new builds, new timings, and just find an edge over their opponent's race.
Marine King is someone I'm really looking forward to as well. Most people are saying they think he is going to dominate. He was the highest player on the ladder for a really long time, jokingly using the ID KT Flash as he used Boxer in the past. So he's somebody to look out for sure. Even though he's been playing a lot of Wings of Liberty and he wasn't Code S until very recently, he's still a top contender here.
And let's not forget about players like Maru, like Dian, all these strong names that we see in Code A, in Code S all the time. And of course for FXO, exactly the same thing is true. Just a lot of potential here. Not only for the Team League, but for Heart of the Swarm in general.
It's time to begin. I guess that was not a mistake when that happened yesterday. I guess that's how we start things off now at the season. Former TSL coach you see now taking the referee role. You can finally see him in the spotlight. He was here yesterday as well, but
yeah, he was always here. Even when TSL already announced that they are going to disband and the players were free agents, he was always with them, supporting them, helping them out.
He looks good in a suit, you know?
Yeah. I like it. Yesterday it was quite funny. I came into the makeup room and he was already sitting there in a suit, and I'm like, oh, what happened to you? All fancy today. And it was like, thank you. And I'm like, okay, so you're on camera today? Yeah, maybe.
He's not that good at Dragonflight though, as we just discovered.
Yeah.
Not quite, but maybe he'll improve one day. You can see that Prime does have that pin on Gerard's jacket indicating that they did win one GSTL championship. They want to do it again. They've always given a good showing in GSTL, even though only being able to win one time.
Joya already has 2 of those, which also made sure that he was crowned to be the best coach in the last year.
Very true. He's making a lot of great decisions. Choya is a player who's now a coach, but he's also still a player, but you just don't see him come out very often because he's not able to, manage a team and also be a good player at the same time. But the decisions he makes, you can see a lot of his former player coming out in it. He picks great maps for his players as well as the races, even if he knows, for example, the player he's chosen is not necessarily going to win. He's like, well, at least I got rid of that map, so that later the players I have planned are going to have better maps.
In the system that we have in the GSTL, this is just one of the most important things. It's not only about the opponents that you face, it's also about the maps you can pick and the maps you can eliminate. And this is what we talked about earlier. If you want to just make sure that a player like Linog, like Gumiho can really shine, you have to eliminate the maps where they can be sniped. And this is exactly what FXO did in the past year. In 2012, they won 2 championships because of it, played really strong. But now it's a new chapter. We have Heart of the Swarm, everything changes, it's still a beta. And there was one change to yesterday. I didn't even tell you yet. I was informed earlier by production that we have the new patch now on the server that we have here for the GSTL. There was a special client for us, and yesterday you could still load 4 Hellbats into a Medivac.
I did not know that.
So they patched this, and now we run on the latest version where the cargo space for a Hellbat is increased.
It seems like nobody. Yeah, it seems like nobody wanted to use that yesterday, regardless. Maybe they didn't know that it wasn't in there.
It actually happened like once or twice, and people on the internet were speculating a little bit what exactly was going on. The reason is that we have our own dedicated server here where this runs. This tournament is
Yeah, so we don't have any latency issues or anything like that, obviously. Now, let's hope that Lucky can show some Zerg power here, because he is the one all Zergs have their eyes on right now, the first professional Zerg to play a Heart of the Swarm match. And he's going to have to face the king of Marines, maybe now the king of Hellbats. This guy using Reapers and Hellbats in most of his openings on the ladder, going with really strong mid-game pushes because the Hellbats take medevac healing.
Yeah, and Marine King with a HOTS experience rate of 22,222.
I like that. I mean, he's always number 2, so I guess they're just going to give him a lot of 2s there.
I kind of like this a little bit. The experience rate is being chosen by the coaches, by the way. Just in case that you were wondering how exactly that comes to play.
Yeah, it's basically just a joke most of the time, I think.
There's not really a lot of data in Heart of the Swarm for all these players, so that's just how they use the space.
You know what I would actually really rather GOM do, or maybe they could do both, is to post their current ladder ranking in Grandmasters if they're in the top 200. That would be pretty sick to see.
I think that there are quite a lot of players who don't want that revealed. If you have a barcode, you're not going to name your account.
Well, it's true, I suppose. Well, now Marine King needs to get back in the booth. He's a little bit late. What's he doing? You can see his silhouette.
Marine King is scared.
Yeah, it's good. All right, on Silver Sands, we have now Lucky versus the Prime logo.
Lucky versus the ghost of the Prime team.
Exactly.
Now he's in the booth. Look at that. I think he was looking for
Yeah,
his
he was a little confused. He didn't know we were going to start so soon. He thought he was supposed to go back to the bench and just said in chat.
He was really looking for his white rims. This is why he was not in the booth. Look at that.
He needs them. He can't play without them. He
Yeah.
doesn't look as stylish.
He wasn't wearing them in the backstage area, but now he found them. He's getting ready for his game. Silver Sands, we have a Terran versus Zerg. The opening match here between FXO and Prime, the GSTL Pre-Season. Keep in mind, guys, that all the streams in HQ and in EHQ are free,
Yes,
as are
tell
the VODs. Tell people, let your friends know that they can watch this in EHQ right now. This is one of the first tournaments that we have in the Heart of the Swarm that is held offline. We have the players at the studio.
Yeah. The loading screen is up. The last thing that Lucky said before the loading screen comes is, please be gentle. That's what he said in chat. And Marine King, we'll see how gentle he's going to be here on Silver Sands, our new 2-player GSTL map. Map is low, the players are mining. This is the GSTL Pre-Season on Heart of the Swarm in free EHQ, casted by Calder and Wolf.
And starting out our first game to the top left, we have our Zerg player in blue, starting for Team FXO. Yes.
FXO Lucky.
Find out if it's his lucky day today.
Yeah. And of course, guys, don't be irritated by our new guy here, the new voice for the intro, Street Fighter voice. Retired. He has done a good job for the past few years, but now we need a new guy. He's still a little bit inexperienced, but I think he will adjust.
Yeah.
At the bottom right, we have the opponent of Lucky in orange for the Prime team, the Terran player called
Marine King Prime.
That one sounds a little bit different, I feel. Well, what are you going to do, Marine King? Is it going to be gas first? Is it going to be a command center first? Because those are basically the only two choices he has at this moment in time.
What's really important for the Terran versus Zerg in general, we talked in the opening that it's quite difficult for these days. They are complaining a bit about the Reapers in general. There are very aggressive Reaper builds where you can go for the barracks at 8, get your gas at 8 as well. You go for the fastest Reaper possible, and then you just try to execute as much pressure as you can. And this is really strong because of the changes that we've seen to the Reaper. You can suddenly micro a lot better, and the Zerg player, up to the point where he has speed, cannot do a lot. Even on creep, it's not easy for those Zerglings to catch up with the Reaper. So a player with good micro can just completely take you apart.
It's absolutely true.
Marine King,
he's going to go for a command center first. A little bit different than what we expected from hearing about his openings, his aggression with the Reapers, and this may be kind of a mind game he's playing. But Lucky, on the other hand, still goes for gas before pull after his hatch first, so he's not really expecting aggression, it seems, either.
Yeah, Lucky here with the gas, and you know, you have to get the gas kind of early. If there are Reapers facing you, then you need to do something against them. I'm rather a little bit surprised that we see him with such an early hatch, because this is taking quite a gamble. On a map like this, of course, there could be a lot of proxies. He has the Overlords and is trying to find out what's going on, but we didn't see a drone scout, so he's also taking a little bit of a risk here.
Yeah.
And Marine King, he can now, with a double gas, start his tech, and what's really, really strong against Zergs just in general are also the Hellbats. This might be one of the things that he's going to use against Lucky.
Yeah, even though the cargo space has been increased for Hellbats, you can only drop 2. If you send 2 into the main base while you try to run by at the natural, that could be quite devastating. Your opponent has to really multitask on where he puts his drones. You can't really just right-click on the minerals and hope for the best when you're up against something like that.
The big problem that a Zerg has against the Hellbats is that the usual counter against a Hellbat, I mean, people are joking that the only thing that you can do to counter Hellbats is produce Hellbats on your own. But what you really can do is try to capitalize on the fact that they are really slow.
Yes.
And they only have a range of 3. So if you're a Protoss player, you can use your Stalkers, you can kite them, you can make sure that you take them out really fast. And if you're a Zerg player, you have a problem because at the beginning, Hellbats are very, very strong against Queens, they're very strong against Zerglings, they're very strong against drones, which is of course always what you want to do. You want to have them in your opponent's mineral line. But all these units don't really do a lot against Hellbats, so you need Roaches. If you don't have the Roach run and those Hellbats arrive, then you're dead.
Exactly, and that's why we see this Roach run. I don't think this is going to be an aggressive Roach run, but rather a defensive one. He can make, it looks like he's making 2 Overlords here for the Roaches, so he could make a good amount of them, but doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be aggressive. Nice pick off there on the SCV. But yeah, everything you said is true. It's really important to also split your Roaches even, because if you have your Roaches all clumped together, the Hellbats can actually do a decent amount of job with the medevac healing. So you got to make sure the Roaches are not all clumped together so you don't take that extra splash. And he's making 6 Roaches here. He could put on a little bit of pressure, but he can always use them defensively later on as well. He's got a lot of Larva banked up now. In fact, 10, 12 Larva.
A lot of lava here for Lucky, and he could use it. And we have the Burrow upgrade already, and I really, really like this. This already shows that Lucky is trying to change things up a little bit here. So really, really interesting. And I'm very excited to see what exactly he's going to do. You can do so many things against Terran if you get in the mid and late game. You can also now use the new Mutalis a lot more efficiently against Terran as you could before. But for Terran players, there's also this choice between either going mech or going for this very strong Bioforce, where you have Hellbats in composition with the Marauders, Marines, and of course the Medivacs.
Yeah, it's quite strong in the late game for Zerg. I feel Vipers as well, but this is what's really interesting now is these Roaches have Burrow. So if he doesn't have scans, every time a Roach gets low on hit points, he's just going to burrow it so that it can regenerate its health.
You can already see that Marine King is now going for the Armory. He wants the Hellbats, but whoa, his Hellions have to be careful, and his wall is not completed.
He doesn't have a bunker. He was a bit greedy with his production facilities, trying to tech up here a little bit, but now he doesn't have any units to even put in a bunker. He could just die here.
Marine King being Marine King, taking a few risks,
There's
and now suddenly he's paying the price. Here come those SCVs off the mineral line, trying to help out. Another Marauder leaves the barracks and is trying to take apart those Roaches, but Marine King is losing a lot here.
And look at that, he burrows the Roach at 17 hit points. Now it's regenerating. The burrow Roach from earlier now is at full hit points, so he's really utilizing that burrow ability that he got early on for this attack. This is a very unique timing that we don't really see in Wings of Liberty.
Lucky's counter to the Hellbat pushes is hit him early and hit him hard, and this is exactly what he does. The burrow upgrade is being utilized perfectly here, has them on the ramp.
Hellbats are ready though, and they're all stacked up. As soon as he scans, he can do some sick damage here.
It's Hellbat time, but Marine King already suffered a lot of losses.
It really is a tough situation for Marine King right now, but he can use those mules. Back at home, there are spine crawlers being prepared because he knows he's going to face these Hellbats. He's also getting lair.
The big problem for Marine King really is that he lost 16 Harvesters. He is so far behind in the worker count now.
Yeah, 21 to 36 in fact at this moment in time. Tries to target down a few more SCVs, but there's not a lot available for him to target. Good scan here, but the Roaches are split up.
Exactly, very well done by Lucky, going into the mineral line of his opponent once again, trying to snipe a few additional SCVs, and he's doing a really good job here. He's splitting them again, trying to force additional scans. Very well done by Lucky.
It's insane, his micro that we're seeing right now. Does finally clear up the Roaches, but there's 2 more left. This is such a cool opening by Lucky. Marine King has caught up in supply, but the thing is, there are issues for both players in this game now. Both of them are going to struggle to take a third with this many units on the map. Marine King has an army advantage, but he can't throw it away here. He actually has to trade efficiently if he's going to make this attack work.
The Widow Mine, nice overlay here by the way on the stream, is now also in the game. We have Marine King trying to set up his defense, but this was really at a time where the damage was already dealt by Lucky. So Lucky's job now is to establish himself on those bases that he has. I'm a little bit surprised that we didn't see additional drones by him. He is just now trying to get a huge army out. Of course he has to defend, but you also want to try to saturate your bases as well as possible.
I agree with you. I'm a little bit surprised as well we don't see any additional spines. He's only got 2, and I think 3 or 4 would have been a better choice, so you could make those drones. Obviously you take a few drones to do this, but now Marine King realizes, wait a minute, that army's too big. I can't break through here. I have to be efficient because my economy is a little bit weaker than it should be at this moment in time. But on the other hand, Lucky now can't easily take a third base because that army is out there, and if he fights off creep away from those spine crawlers, away from the transfuses, it's not going to be a fight that he can win. Also remember the medevacs are going to be coming out fairly soon as well for these Hellbots, making them basically twice as strong.
Lucky is now getting the speed upgrade, or about to complete it. And he is only getting units. He completely cut the drones here. He doesn't want to have a long game. He's aware that his opponent might have middle mines here. And of course, at this stage in the game, the Terran player will have a huge army. But he's very confident that he can just bust through and take down Marine King's units.
Yeah, this is going to be a really tough engagement. The Widow Mines here are going to help out initially. This is going to scare Lucky. Nice. He puts one Roach forward. He knows they're there. Overseer takes the hit. Roach takes the second hit. Now he can go in safely and not worry. Marine King has so many Marauders, though.
Yeah, there are a lot of Marauders. There's a lot of damage potential by Marine King. He didn't build too many SCVs on his own, and he is taking this army apart. Look at those Roaches struggling against the united power of Halberds, Marines, and Marauders.
Yeah, Lucky massively up in supply, but he's definitely going to have this changed by Marine King here. Great burrow micro. We have not seen players utilize burrow like this since the early stages of Wings of Liberty, and this isn't even new to Heartless Swarm. It's just Lucky being really smart.
Yeah, Lucky does this very well, but the question still remains if it would have been a little bit better for him to just go into macro mode after his initial damage.
That is the question, but Marine King is a little bit down on economy, so Lucky decides, okay, I'm going to keep the pressure on him for a little bit. Now that he's being defensive, I'm going to take my third. He's getting burrow movement to further utilize those underground Roaches. He can't really trade too much here anymore. He's going to try to pick off a few Hellbats. Just has to be really careful. He has to utilize burrow while there's a turret.
Yeah, I don't like this too much. If he uses burrow, as he said, the turret becomes a problem. And in general, he can't do a lot of damage here anymore. He's trying to take his third base now, but we still don't see him with additional harvesters. He is looking at 44 right now, was producing a couple over the last 1 or 2 minutes, and is still sticking it out with the Roaches.
Yeah, he's making a ton of them, just constantly producing Roaches, keeping his drone count much lower than you would ever see as Zerg.
And this is exactly why Marine King is now reinforcing his army with additional siege tanks. And keep in mind, guys, you don't have to research the siege mode upgrade anymore.
Yeah.
This is something that you get for free now.
Straight out of the box. It's really quite handy, in fact, to not have to worry about that. You're always more willing to make a siege thing when you know it already has siege mode. He's going to pick off this Overlord here, but with all these Roaches, he's not going to get much else. In fact, the Overlord is barely going to be taken out.
And it's going to supply block Lucky, and heavily at that. He just started additional 3 Overlords, so he will be supply blocked for quite some time.
This Queen is getting a little bit ahead of herself here, thinking she can protect the Hive like that. There she goes, getting back. Marine King wants to snipe it, but he knows this is probably not a good choice this time. He doesn't know about the third, because that would be the best target for him if he could go at it. Now he sees it.
Hydra then now for Lucky. And this is quite interesting. Hydras, of course, in Heart of the Swarm got a few new upgrades. Have speed upgrade now in addition to the range upgrade. A lot more useful than they were already in Wings of Liberty. Just at the end of Wings of Liberty, they are now experiencing a little bit of revival.
Yeah, this is something that Blizzard has given new players the opportunity to really play around with different Hydra styles. I like that burrowed Roach that's just following the army. You know, it's like an observer, basically, for Zerg. It's a burrowed Roach that moves and tells you what's going on. These drones are... I don't know where they were going, but we need to get away from here.
But it's interesting to see how Lucky is now using the map to his advantage. He knows exactly where Marine King is positioned, thanks to the Roach, and also, of course, because his base is just now being attacked. But he immediately sends those units to the left side of the map. His own army is now trying to just trade with Marine King, go for the main base of the Terran player, and there is only 1 siege tank so far.
No Widow Mines, only the tank. He's got a few bio units, of course, rallying out, but that's not a lot of firepower here. Once the tank falls, he can get up that ramp if he wants to.
And Marine King on his own is now trying to bust through, going for the natural of his opponent, the FXO Zerg player, trying to hold on. A lot of Roaches on the high ground at the choke point, but that's also true for the bottom right, where Lucky is now going into the main base of Marine King.
Yeah, he's going right into that main base, going into the heart. Marine King's army size is much larger, and even the medevacs that are healing these SCVs are slowing him down. I feel like Marine King has a massive advantage here. Even if you look at the production tab, you can see Marine King is still producing units, whereas Lucky's got these 10 Roaches, but they're all going to spawn and die instantly here.
The big problem for Lucky is really that the medivacs are, of course, always able to just heal these units. Marine King can stim, has this insane damage output that he uses to take the base of Lucky at the top left apart. And the Zerg player for FXO is now just trying to get a few hatcheries onto the map so that he can base race, but I don't see that happening, Wolf.
I just don't either, because the buildings of the Terran player can lift. Marine King can lift his buildings, he can also lift his units in the main, as he's doing. Every tank, every Marauder that comes out of these bases is actually being saved and rescued by these medevacs, unlike the Roaches of Lucky that are dying instantly as they come out of those eggs.
The army supply is 78 against barely 50 right now, so this is something that doesn't really work well for Lucky. He just doesn't have what it takes to take down this army. There is too much for Marine King, and with all those medivacs and the stim, the damage output is insane. The main question, of course, is do you have the detection that you need to take down the Ro8 army?
Exactly. Can he do that? Because he's going to have to land his orbitals, which he's already done here to the left side. Lucky has not seen this.
Oh, but the orbital is actually burning down. He needs a mule there, or at least an SCV to repair.
Yeah, he doesn't have any SCVs nearby. That orbital could very well fall. There's a second orbital, though. And I just think this Ro8 army is not quite enough. GG.
GG. Lucky loses game 1. We have Marine King with a victory. And the first point on the scoreboard for the Prime team.
Now, this is what a lot of people were expecting, but Lucky put up a great fight. And I admire the creativity with the burrow rush with the roaches. That was really, really strong. And it gave Marine King a lot of trouble early on.
Yeah,
I agree with you, though. I would have liked to see a more economic switch from him with more spine crawlers, maybe, just trying to defend his bases. It's tough, though, because that type of Hellbat Marine Marauder push is so difficult to defend if you try to get your economy up.
Yeah. When Blizzard changed the burrow upgrade slightly and was making sure that he could get this a little bit earlier, a lot of people were discussing it on the forums. Does it really help a Zerg player? Does it really make up for timings?
Yeah.
And Lucky used it already, so he showed that you can utilize this to pressure a Terran opponent, and he did a good job here, spreading his roaches out, making sure that Marine King had to use a lot of scans to get rid of the threat, but in the end, his follow-up attack was just not enough to take down Marine King, and the defense of the Terran player was in place. Could have tried to macro it up, but a very difficult situation here for Lucky to judge. He tried to go for it, it didn't work out. Marine King had what he needed to come back to the game. The Widow Mines were there, he had a good defense.
It was well played by Marine King. He made the right decisions from behind, and it's going to be, in fact, Choya coming out here. No surprise there, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, Choya in Heart of the Swarm makes another appearance for the FXO team in the booth.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're going to see a lot of aggression out of him. Would not be surprised to see one of those pushes with Stalkers and the early Mothership core against Marine King to put some pressure on.
This is definitely going to be a very interesting match.
Yeah, it certainly will be. Choya is a very experienced player, even though, of course, he's currently Code B and he has a less than 50% win rate in GSTL. All you can really say about this guy is he is experienced. He's been around since the open seasons. He's been a great coach. He got Coach of the Year.
And you can definitely bet that he was preparing a specific strategy in case that Marine King wins. He knew, of course, already about the starting matchup about Lucky versus Marine King, so he was the player who was trained to take down Marine King in the case that Lucky was not able to beat the strong Terran player of the Prime team. So we're going to find out what exactly Choya has up his sleeve. Before we do that, we're heading into a 5-minute break, and as soon as we are back, we will see Marine King up against Choya.
She's got the love, she's got the love.